my name is Leah with Alaska Forest School, and today we're going to be talking about mittens and how to keep kids' hands warm. We are just entering winter here. Today at Forest School, I think it was about 25 degrees when we started, so the mitten struggle is just starting for us. I get asked a lot about how to keep kids' hands warm when we're playing outside because our forest school runs year round and we meet even when it's well below zero. So I'm going to share with you some of the tricks I've learned from forest school, parents at forest school, from me growing up in Alaska, and also from raising my two boys here. So let's get started. I think it's a big balance that we find with kids at forest school is that they want to keep their hands warm, but they also want to hold a shovel. They want to be able to grab a bucket or maybe make a snowball. And a lot of them just desperately want to wear gloves, but they don't keep your hands warm. Even the best bomber proof ones that are made for like ice climbing or extreme winter conditions, I find that they don't keep kids' hands warm and even my hands warm. So I always go for telling parents that they should get mittens. If it's really a kind of contention point with your child and they just will not go outside, what I would do with my son is one of my kiddos would refuse to go outside if he had to wear mittens. So I would have him start with a pair of gloves, but I would always just keep a pair of mittens kind of tucked in my coat for the inevitable, my hands are cold, I want to go home. And usually I could stay outside with him a little bit longer if I was like, well, here are some lovely warm mittens that you could put on. And so that would kind of extend our time a little bit longer. But if you have kids and you don't know what to do, maybe you just moved to Alaska and this is your first winter, just don't even try to get gloves. Just go for mittens. That's what I would suggest. Okay, so first of all, people often ask what I use to keep my hands warm. And I tend to spend more money on mittens and boots because I can wear a lot of layers on my top and even on my legs. I can kind of bundle up to stay warm, but feet and hands are really difficult for me. I have bad circulation, which doesn't help at all. So let me show you my kind of array of mittens that I use. So on kind of the cooler fall days or even spring, I just have a pair of little gloves because at forest school, I often have to put up a rope swing, maybe tie a knot in something. So these are nice. I can still work with my hands, but they do not keep my hands warm. And this is the only time of the year that I will actually wear mittens over gloves. Okay, so then we say it's getting a little cooler. I have some combi mittens and they're really pretty warm. They also have a nice strap so I can keep them on my hand so then I can be staying nice and toasty, but then I have to take my hands off and I don't have to find a place to put my mittens. The other thing that I found in these today when I got them out for the first time is that I had bought last year these pieces of beaver pelt. I think they're from Aurora Heat. And I have to admit that when I bought them, I thought it was kind of a gimmick. And my reasoning was that, oh, it'll feel nice and soft. But I don't know how it works, but it really does keep my hands warm. They say you can also put them in your boots, but I sort of feel like having the fibers against my skin is one of the added benefits. So I haven't tried them in my boots yet. But so that's layer one. Then on even colder days, I have a longer mitten, and this one is by Marmot. And again, it has the part that goes over my wrist. And as you can see, it goes up higher. And it has kind of a cinch cord and also another place that it can cinch along the back. I like these, but I've had them for a very long time. And so I don't think they're as insulating as they used to be, but I still wear them. Okay, now these mittens, they might look a little ridiculous because they are huge, but on days if I'm going to be standing around, I've even done some dog mushing with my friend, but these mittens, I told you, they're ridiculous, but they will keep my hands warm and no matter what the temperature is. And I usually wear a small liner glove underneath. My hands are even getting warm right now. um, I'll wear a small glove underneath because I often take these off and put them back on. And another thing that I really like on these is they have a little patch of soft um, fabric there, which I know that they're meant for maybe to wipe off your goggles, but sometimes they can be used for that too. So those are the mittens that I have to keep my hands warm, just recreating in Alaska and also at forest school. Okay, here are some things to look for when buying a pair of gloves. The first is insulation. If you want a super warm mitten, it's probably going to be a little poofy compared to a mitten like this with no insulation. So, kind of the poofier that it is does kind of equate to warmth. The next is waterproof. If you can get a mitten that's waterproof, that's great because we even have days in Alaska that warm up and it's kind of slushy and it's really fun to make a snowball out of slush. My kids, it was imperative that they had waterproof gloves because we did a lot of ice fishing and they were always sticking their hands into the hole. So we always had to have waterproof mittens. The next is the style of glove. They have some gloves that are very short, more like an adult mitten, and that does not work as well for kids. I really prefer a gauntlet style glove that goes up and over the outside of the coat. They do have some that have kind of a softer material that goes up and is meant to go under the coat, which is fine for younger children. It's kind of nice because it's a lot harder for them to pull them off. But if you have an older child that's going to be wanting to maybe have a snack or maybe zip their own coat up, then I would get the kind that do go over the coat. It's just a little bit easier for them to maneuver. And the last thing to think about is how easy are them for you and the child both to put on. Older kids, again, this style is really nice. They can just stick their hand inside. But if you have a younger child, I really suggest the mittens that open up the back. Some of them zip. One of the types my kids had, they Velcro. And they're a lot easier to kind of shove all those little fingers in and get the thumb in the right spot. So, those are just some things to consider when looking for a pair of mittens. Okay, let's talk about actual mittens to buy. There's a wide range, just like everything for children. You can get very inexpensive all the way up to that would cost much more than I would even spend on myself. But kind of the budget brand that I would actually buy, and I did, are the ones they sell them at Costco. They're usually made by Head. They're slightly water resistant, they have insulation. And the thing that I liked about these is that they were pretty good for a mitten. I could buy them larger and put a smaller mitten inside just for an added layer of warmth. And then if they happen to lose it at school, it wouldn't be a big deal to me. So I would actually, at the start of the winter, I would buy like 3 or 4 pairs even from Costco just to have them here. I would usually buy one in a size that fits them pretty well so they could still kind of grip things, but then also buy a larger size so we could stick an inner layer in if we wanted to. Some people even just buy the size, the smaller size, and then get a waterproof mitten to go over the top of those. It's not as easy for the child if they're at a playground or they're trying to hold on to something. But if you're on a hike, you're sledding, that works fine. Kind of moving up a step is that I'll just mention some of the brands that I would recommend. And I'll put them over here too. Reima makes really good mittens. Stonz, those are actually the brand that I have right here. And these are nice. I actually might be able to get my hand inside these. Um, I can almost get it in. Is that you can actually grab stuff with these. Some of the mittens are really hard to manipulate objects, but these are pretty darn good. Um, Stones, POP, Polarn O Pyret, I think is how you pronounce it. What else? Didriksons, Hestra. And then if you have an REI near you, I think that's a good place to start. They have a lot of solid brands, again, in all sorts of prices. And it might be good to go there and have your child try them on. If they find one they like, I sometimes say just get it because the mitten fight can just be draining as a parent, I would say. Um, this last brand, I don't think they make them anymore. It's called Middies, but I just love these. These are great for younger kids and even older kids. They don't have a thumb. So it is wonderful. You just pull it on their hand. And they had a bunch of different kinds. Right now I have a couple of the pink tiger and the other tiger too, but they can cinch around the bottom and they're pretty nice. They're not super warm, but I would say they're pretty good for most days in Alaska. For my forest school families, if someone just is overwhelmed by all of this, and I totally understand that, I usually just say the Stonz gloves or the Reima that look pretty similar to this. They're just a good place. They're um fairly, I mean, I think they're pretty inexpensive. I think these are about $30 to $40 and they're really well made and long lasting. One place that I order them from, I don't know if you can get these in Anchorage or in town, but one good place is the Outdoor School Shop, I think. I will put the link below just in case I got that wrong. And I trust all their gear. They're made for kids that go to forest schools who are going to be outside a long time, so they're pretty good. Okay, so that's kind of the mitten roundup I would go through. The only other thing I would say is that I really like hand warmers. I always have some in my forest school pack and even my hiking pack that I use in the winter. They're wonderful to just give you a boost of warmth sometimes. While I would love to find a reusable hand warmer that you can actually keep in your mitten, gets warm fast, keeps its warmth, I haven't found one. If you know one, please let me know. Put it in the comments. So I always get the hand warmers from Costco. They warm up fast. They can really help you get that kind of that boost of warmth. I also carry the rechargeable hand warmers. Mine is pretty small like that, and I recharge it with the USB port. And these are great to give to a child if you just need to get back to the car and it's kind of that mental breakdown time. Maybe you pushed it a little too far. um, so you can give it to your child. They can hold it. They warm up pretty quick. And my children like to hold them in their pockets. So that's just another extra tip you have. But I would love to hear any mitten brands you love or any tips and tricks you have to keep hands warm. I think it's the best way to learn is from people who have been there and done that. So, thank you for watching my first video podcast, video blog, something. And I would like to hear if there's other topics that you would like to learn about. Someone already mentioned boots, so I will put that on my list. But if there's anything else, please let me know.